Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Anthony Guastella. He is a certified health coach and he has overcome his own health challenges. And we'll say, with his help, we'll simplify complex topics like hormetic stress, elemental health, that is about air, water, light, and the also that he talks about is non negotiable mindset for a life of energy and freedom. So we'll talk about all that. Welcome to the show, Anthony.
Hey, man, thank you for having me. Very glad to be here.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Anthony. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about how one can simplify their path to true health. We'll learn about all this from you. But before that, Anthony, let's learn a bit about your journey, your background, your story, so that people know who they are listening to.
100%, man. Yeah. So I had a Lyme disease diagnosis that lasted for the period of 6 years. And through this time, I was experiencing every symptom you can imagine. Joint pain was the worst. I had thyroid issues, fibromyalgia. And I was left with two decisions, man. I could either be a victim or a victor, right? And the voices around me, they were basically telling me I can't get well. There's nothing I can do. And this is just going to be the rest of your life. And I wasn't going to have that. So I chose to be a victor. And I listened to my inner guidance. And it took me 6 long years to get well. I made a decision, I had this internal conviction within myself that I'm going to get well. Not only am I going to get well, I'm going to get to the other side of this and help as many people as I possibly can. And that's what I did, man. The journey was a very long and it was a lot of trial and error. But like I said, I had this internal belief and I did it, man. So here we are. And I'm fired to help as many people as I can take control of their health.
Absolutely, Anthony. And that's great. That's great to learn. So I want to understand from you. Not many people know about Lyme disease, if I heard that correctly. Not many people, they almost so many of them just take their health for granted until unless something happens and then they start understanding things. It's happened with so many people, including me also. And then, people try to find the right path. How did you, after learning about your own medical issues, how did you found the path for yourself so that through your journey people can learn for themselves, Anthony?
Yeah, many people, like you said, we just don't think about it until something happens. And how I learned about it in my own life was I kind of went on a conventional path, right? There was like all these things that are told to be your health and wellness, right? You're like take these medicines and things like that. But if you actually look within and see the results, you don't actually get results. You kind of focus on the symptom management essentially. And I understood that I was kind of always inspired by possibility, right? I understood that the more progress that I make in my own life, the more quick I'm able to be of service. Like I want to be a light and a model for others, and that really guided my decisions, man. Like understand that you have to filter your decisions through your values, and there's so many different things that go into wellness. There's nutrition, there's sleep, there's exercise, and like you said, mindset. There's so many different things, and we just tend to get caught up on one thing, and we don't actually get well. But there's so many different things that compromise your holistic wellness. So just taking the small steps every day is really where it's at.
Absolutely. So to understand this better, you are a health coach, and what is it that is most important in terms of health? Is it about they should focus on the composition of their body? Is it they should focus on nutrition? Is it about, people will say, I want to lead my life, and then why should I compromise on eating and all that stuff? How do you want them to talk about, when you talk about foundational health? How do you want them to understand? You are a young man, a lot of young people want to live their life, but obviously also want to live a healthy life.
Yeah, I always say the mind is the foundation. The mind is really the seat of your decisions. And a lot of us, we carry around these beliefs that we can't get well. Like it's not that the solution doesn't exist. It's that we're not receptive to the solution, meaning that we're taught this paradigm of being, and we're so used to being sick. We're so used to like these things around us. It's not until we start to shift the questions that were in our heads. Like, it's like, why me? Like, how can I actually get well? What would it look like if I can get well? Like, what do I actually need to do? And start to put a plan together. That's really all starts. And then going to the basic principles on nutrition and things like that. It is a process, man, because many of us were not taught these things. And as we go along our journey, we just kind of get this forward momentum. And as we start to see progress in our life, that kind of inspires us to keep on moving forward and create change. And the life that you want, the healing is beyond possible. But again, we have to make that internal conviction within ourselves to make it happen.
Absolutely. So let's understand it from the ground level. What is it that your clients generally come to you for, and how do you solve those problems? So people will get an understanding of, how Anthony gets to solve things on the ground, and no better way than learning from that particular place, Anthony.
Yeah. So it's either someone needs to optimize their wellness, or they just want to like do some things to upgrade and they're already good, or they have some type of issue, some type of disease. And what people need to understand about lifestyle is that there are basic principles that everyone should follow in a sense to kind of optimize things, but then you have to customize it to you. It's not like there's a one size fits all approach at all, but there's certain things like eat real food, right? That's eat organic, right? These things that you need to kind of understand if you're going to make what diet work for you. Like you have to customize it to you, but we kind of go through nutrition. Like I can go through certain principles of nutrition if you want to and go deeper into that. There's things like sleep. Like everything you think of wellness, there's principles that make them work better. There's sleep tactics, right, to help you sleep better. Exercise. And if you want me to focus on something specific, I definitely get into that. But it's basically holistic lifestyle wellness. Like there's no one size fits all approach, and we're not just treating symptoms. We're actually getting to the root of the issue, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So, Anthony, you talk about hormetic stressors. Help us understand what are this, so that people can uh, make use of that knowledge.
Absolutely. A hormetic stressor is something that you do in the short term that, if you recover, is going to make you stronger in the long term. So, in terms of physical wellness, you have exercise, which is going to be the most obvious example. Like you do a short term bout of exercise, you don't want to overdo it, because if you do these things in excess, it actually leads to your detriment, right? So, doing these things and recovering from them. So, exercise, you have heat, cold, fasting, and sunlight. All of these things work to make your overall biology more resilient and more resistant to stress. Because as you know, man, there's so many stressors in the world, and it's not about, changing circumstances, it's about changing your internal landscape, right? Don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. And how you do that is really building your overall resilience to the world. And you do that through those 5 things. And there's so many tactics and so much data behind those things. But if you do those things and you actually start to, do other things like tune into your purpose, your mindset, you start to become a very unbreakable human being. And that's how you kind of live your dreams and be of service, in my mind.
Absolutely. So, how do people take care of this hormetic stressors? Is there a particular way that they can manage these things better, uh, Anthony?
Yeah. So it first starts with awareness. Like, what's your state of health? What can you actually measure right now? Like, it may not be the very best thing for you to do high intensity interval training right now. Say if you have a chronic disease and you're just, in this state of turmoil, right? But what can you do? You can probably take a walk, right? You can move, and just kind of working out if you can, lifting weights. That's a great idea. The more muscle you have in your frame, the more longevity you have, the more kind of reserve you'll have. Like you recover from things faster, you just get better, and you feel better overall. And when it comes to heat, this is a very good hormetic stressor. So getting in the sauna, right? If you can do that, doing other things, like even though exercise and all these things kind of influence heat, but getting really hot, like the saunas, that can activate so many different things. There's heat shock proteins within that, which makes you much more resilient, much more overall biology. And there's so many ways to do a sauna, but cold therapy, another thing that makes you strong and resilient, toning the vagus nerve. So cold showers, you have cold plunges. And if you are perhaps struggling with weight issues, this works to build brown adipose tissue, brown fat. Now, brown fat is brown because it's very dense in mitochondria, and it helps you actually burn fat. It's a type of fat that helps you burn fat. That's very interesting, right? So you have fasting as well. And there's so many different ways of doing this. There's intermittent fasting, which is probably the most accessible to people, which is basically you have, I would say, 12 to 16 hours where you're not eating. And that actually is studied to have most of the benefits of the fasting. You can do 24-hour fast, you can do more than that. But if you do that every single day, you're going to do something called autophagy, which is cellular cleanup. Now, this is where you have your cells get cleaned for all debris and all these kind of build up compounds you have throughout the day. So it's very good practice to have. And just 12, 16 hours, do what works for you. And then you have sunlight. Now, many of us, man, unfortunately, we're afraid of the sun. And, there's kind of like powers that be, like they're not really interested in overall wellness. And unfortunately, well, we think of sunlight as vitamin D, which absolutely is, but it's a regulator of everything, man. It's hormones, neurotransmitters, countless things. Our biology requires sunlight. So get that as much as you can. And it's not about being overexposed. It's more so about doing it gradually, right? So you don't want to if you're just coming out of the winter, there's no sunlight. You don't want to just go into a straight up an hour or something like that. You want to build yourself gradually. And this is one of the most pivotal things to your overall health and wellness, man. It's so critical. So get that sunlight if you can.
Absolutely, absolutely. And talking of sunlight, Anthony, especially I've seen in my part of the world, people are accustomed to, sunlight, and we are very fortunate that we get enough sunlight. But in several parts of the world, including, the western part of the world, is that uh, there have been different sort of messaging. Some people say, that, you'll get sunburn, then they use those sunscreens, and then, and then now also people talk about sunbathing. So I just want to understand, for a common person in that part of the world, how should they understand it, whether they should go into the sun, or they should just go away from it, or they should only do it for entertainment purposes, or whatever way we want to call it. As a certified health coach, what is your understanding? Why ask this is so that people get some sort of a better understanding for themselves.
Absolutely, man. As you mentioned, there's so many different barriers to the sun that we have. We have the sunglasses, we have a sunblock, all these types of things. Now, it's not to say that there's never a place for these things. All these things have their place, right? If you're going to be out on the beach for hours and hours a day, maybe you want to wear some sunblock. But unfortunately, the conventional sunblocks, they're been proven to be carcinogenic and actually cause skin cancer. It's very ironic if you think about it. There's so many different chemicals within there, but there's certain natural ones that you can use if you want. That actually don't have that and are actually very effective. Used for zinc oxide that has that in there. Those are very effective. But I like to get to the gradual state where we don't actually need this. I mean, if you just use coconut oil, for example, that's SPF of 10 because all the saturated fat in there, which is it's good for the skin. I kind of do that sometimes, just kind of don't really need it, but it's kind of interesting to do, just kind of experiment with these things. But if you just do it gradually, and another thing, dietarily, if you consume a lot of vegetable oils like corn, canola, safflower, sunflower, soybean, these things actually make the sun oxidize your skin, which is why a lot of people have a detrimental effect of the sun because those fats are making up your cell membranes. And when the sun interacts with it, it oxidizes it. So you don't want to be consuming these things at all. So high quality oils is going to actually influence how the sun interacts with you as well. So make sure you do that. So you got the sunblock, and since we're talking about sunglasses, now again, if you want to look cool, I mean, it's all good, right? All these things have their place, but you have to understand that your eyes contain 70% of your photoreceptors. And if you're just outside, you're not, because your hormones are regulated through your eyes, right? It's activates something called the suprachiasmatic nucleus in the brain, which is kind of the stimulator of your circadian rhythm, or also known as your hormetic clock, right? How your hormones and neurotransmitters are released throughout the day. And if you're just out there, your sun is not getting through your eyes. So if you can just get as much exposure as you possibly can, do it gradually, man, and you will see your health improve like no other. It's sunlight is something that we need. And man, it's just you get that light within you. It's a whole nother way of being, and you just feel refreshed. That's how I would approach it.
Absolutely, Anthony. And talking of sunlight, you also talk about elemental health, that is air, water, light, earthing, and EMFs. So help us understand. Means people know about these things, but and they talk about when they talk about it, they talk in terms of pollution, they talk in terms of climate change, but very few people talk it the way you talk about it. So I want to understand what is it that you want people to understand when you talk when you use the term elemental health.
Absolutely, man. As I mentioned, health is not just one thing. Like we think of nutrition, exercise. That's what most people think of when they think of health, which absolutely those are very important pillars. But these things I just mentioned are things that most people don't think about or but are very important. So you want to have high quality of these things. So as you're going through air, water, light, EMFs, earthing, all these things that are required for overall biology. Now I can go deep into all of these, but I'll kind of go briefly into them and ask questions as you go if you desire. But so when it comes to water, for example, our cells require hydration to actually build our hormones, our transmitters, and it kind of acts as a super highway for our DNA in a sense. It kind of interacts with all of our cells and makes up our organs. And we have to understand that our water quality is very important. Over here in the United States, the missile water supply is filled with fluoride, chlorine, heavy metals. There's pharmaceutical residue. It's ridiculous. And if we're drinking this all day, it's going to bioaccumulate in our tissues and make us sick, right? It's not the highest quality water. Now, even that being said, there's other countries that we still have to be grateful for that because other countries that are drinking water that looks like mud, right? It is actually killing them. So we have to keep that perspective in mind. But also, we don't want to go for the highest quality water. So what does it look like for most people? In order of operations, you have spring water, which is going to be the most purest, most cleanest thing. You have well water, but then most accessible, you're going to have a reverse osmosis system, which basically filters down to 0.003 microns, which is all the bacteria out, all of those things. But you're left with a problem, which is a blank slate, which does not exist in nature. So you want to remineralize that water with high quality salt, right? So you're getting this clean water, but you're remineralizing it as best as you can. It's not going to be the best like spring water, but it's definitely an upgrade. So air, man, indoor air pollution is like 10 times worse than outdoor air pollution. It is horrendous because all the chemicals, the cleaners, the formaldehydes, we're breathing this in, it's interacting with all of our tissues and making up all of our cells. And there's so many different strategies for the air. You can get a plant, like there's snake plants, which are been studied by NASA to improve the air and actually works at night. That's how they release their chemicals. And there's other things like essential oils. There's so many different strategies with that. But when it comes to air purification, I would recommend a HEPA air filter. Even though there's some advanced technologies that I'm aware of now that are kind of emerging, like the Jasper and whatnot, but HEPA is kind of does the same thing as reverse osmosis, which does 0.003 microns, which all the bacteria, all the pollutants in our air, it makes the air very high quality. So moving on to earthing, right? So earthing, if people aren't familiar with this, it may sound kind of ridiculous, but it's kind of one of those genetic inputs that are kind of required for biology because it's basically getting connected to Earth. Now, if you think about it, man, we've been connected to Earth 24/7 for ever up until very recent times. We've been disconnected to Earth for 24/7. So it's kind of the opposite. And if we think about it, so Earth is filled with this negative negative electrons, right? And these are also known as antioxidants. Well, antioxidants are things that kind of are required for biology. Now, a free radical requires antioxidant, also known as a free electron, to get neutralized. And it's been studied that if we get connected to the Earth, we actually are taking up these free electrons, which acts as antioxidants within our body. So it's very critical for overall wellness. It's been studied. If you look at the work of Clint Ober, he's been very well studied on this, helps regular sleep, our hormones, everything we've been talking about. So it's something to get into. You can actually measure this through different things, but I'll move on to so if air, water, and then sunlight, which we just kind of mentioned, right? We just kind of mentioned all the benefits of that, all the hormones and neurotransmitters. So we won't really get into that. And then EMFs or electromagnetic frequencies, man. Now, these things, we interact with them all the time. There's ionic radiation, which is what you think of with X-rays. There's non-ionizing radiation from like cell phones, Wi-Fi, all these things. Now, you can't really escape them in this world. You're going to interact with them like we're doing it right now. It's great. Technology is awesome. We're using it to help people across the world, right? And it's very good, but you want to use it in an intelligent manner. But how, real briefly, the science, I mean, there's thousands of studies in the field of bioelectromagnetics, which kind of goes in this, but real briefly, it kind of interacts with voltage gated calcium channels. All right. So which basically activates a enzyme called peroxynitrate, which is the most potent free radical. And it basically makes the calcium in the cells go out of the cells. And it cultivates all this inflammation, free radicals, and all that. But essentially, there's certain strategies as well. As you can put your technology in airplane mode, which is studied. If you use those meters, it shows how low those radiation goes. And you can do this when you're not using it, right? So your phone or laptop, if you're not using it, it's also a good productivity hack. So you can be more focused and things like that. So you can hire a building biologist, which kind of goes deeper. It kind of goes into so many different strategies, man. But you can actually build your overall resilience internally as well by taking certain supplements. But ultimately, it's not about being afraid. It's about living with courage, right? Not fear, but actually intelligence. You can make decisions out of fear or intelligence because you can become the greatest versions of yourselves by employing these things, have more energy, and live your dreams. And that's how it's the approach that I'll take it with I'm a type of mindset, man.
Absolutely, absolutely, Anthony. So, two things I want to understand. When you talk about reverse osmosis water and you add salt, for a common person, how should they understand what salt to add back to that, that clean water, but devoid of everything necessary? So, how do you, inject your life into it with whatever salt? So, what salt?
Absolutely. I like those details, man. Like, yeah, because you don't want to just get any type of salt. You want to get high quality salt. If you look at the regular girl with the umbrella type of conventional salt, what you're going to be seeing is one mineral, really. You're just going to see sodium, which is not salt. And it's highly processed. There's certain caking agents in there. It's not real salt. As you see high quality sea salt, like Redmond's real salt, Celtic salt, Himalayan salt, you can go beyond. These things have 80 plus minerals in there. 80 plus trace minerals as opposed to sodium. Now, if you look at the studies of salt, when people say it's bad and all that, what you notice is that they're only studying isolated sodium chloride, which is not salt, which is not good for your blood pressure. But if you look at real salt, it's actually very important. Your bodies require minerals in order to process water. And also, minerals act as a kind of superhighway to make things happen faster in your body. They're kind of like catalysts. So use high quality salt like Redmond's real salt, Celtic salt, and man, it's very good for your overall biology and well-being. And that's what I would salt for that.
Absolutely. And one more thing about, nutrition, you talk about organic food. Now, people talk about organic food, organic diet. But is it possible in today's time? Is I can buy, an organic banana in the morning, and in the afternoon it will be all inorganic food, and then so how do I integrate organic in my diet, or is it possible to become fully organic? Means that's not possible for a common person. So, as someone who talks about nutrition, how do I, as a common person, look at the organic part? Means it's only like to try out something just for the sake of it, but to go fully organic, is it feasible in today's time, Anthony?
100%, man. So real quick on the science of why this is important. Pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, rodenticides. The suffix "side" means to kill. It's designed to kill small organisms that go on it, right? And it does this through being neurogenic or estrogenic, meaning it disrupts the nervous system or the endocrine system of the pests. But now we think we're bigger, so it's going to kill us right away, right? Obviously. But it still has a detrimental impact on our biology. Like we have a microbiome, which has been shown to be very disruptive. It's tiny microorganisms within us. So it definitely has a massive impact. And it's not really to be played with in a sense. But that being said, do your best you can to get organic, but also celebrate your wins. If you're going from eating cereal in the morning to eating, conventionally raised broccoli, you're winning. Celebrate your wins. It's not about being perfect, it's about progress. But ultimately, man, if you start to implement these things within your diet, I mean, there's certain things that are less important, I would say, in terms of that, because they're not sprayed as much, like say avocados, because they got that shell. But do whatever you can to get organic. Celebrate your wins. Like it's more so about progress, because there's also like there's a clean dozen, dirty dozen, clean 15. If you can look up on that to see like what is most accessible, and that's where I would start. But understanding that it will have some significant impact on your biology and you will feel better, and it does matter. Like if you look at history, like organic, it wasn't necessarily a thing because everything was organic. So he's a very newly introduced into our society, and it's definitely something to think about for sure.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about mindset that you talk about.
Yeah,
How should we understand mindset with regards to, uh, best sort of a health? Means if I have a good mindset, will that help me in terms of my health? How should I
absolutely.
understand it?
So there's actually two fields of science called psychoneuroimmunology, psychoneuroendocrinology. Now these actually directly translate to how our thoughts, our emotions impact our overall biology, like our hormones, our transmitters, all these types of things, right? And it's very important that we actually start to shift our inner self talk, start to really get to know yourself, your beliefs, your values, standards, and live with purpose and integrity. So when you do this, man, your overall character is really the foundation of your life. It's so important because yeah, you can have all this health knowledge, but when things happen in the world, when people need you, your family needs you, when things are on the line, you're on the mission every day, man, you're going to overcome yourself. You're going to overcome fear, and you can't do that without courage, right? So you have to have this mindset and have your North Star, right? Give yourself a space to think because we're filled in a world of absolute distractions. And if we're kind of like having these things all in the background all the time, you got TV, all these types of things, we're not really going to get tuned into inner knowing. We're not going to really know who we are in a sense. So give yourself a space to think and just kind of evaluate your beliefs. So like things that went well today, things that didn't, how do I want to be of service, reconnect with your purpose. And you actually start to strengthen that sense of self, strengthen that sense of identity within yourself. Know that you matter, know that you're here for a reason. And that's what it's all about, man. You start from there. If you start making decisions from that place, man, you're going to live a life of your dreams because now you're making decisions from a place of love instead of a place of fear. That's what it's all about. Because if you don't think you're enough, you think all these things, your life doesn't, it's not really going to be worth my, I mean, you're not going to make high quality decisions in terms of your overall wellness, right? But if you say, hey, I'm going to make my dreams a reality and be a light and people are going to look to me for guidance and I can inspire people to do the same, then you're going to actually make the best decisions for your health and wellness, right? You're going to actually do the things that make you feel good and have this type of high energy for people. And that's what it's all about, man. That's where I would definitely start.
Absolutely, Anthony. Well explained. Now, I want to understand in a nutshell at the end, I want to understand what is it that you would want people to understand about health, about nutrition, overall, that your core message is.
Yeah, man. Your healing is possible. No matter what it is that you're going through, even if you can't get 100% well, I wouldn't tell anybody that you can't get well. I would have to say that's a decision that a person has to make with themselves, man, because I've seen so many miracles take place, things that shouldn't happen, things that absolutely they should not get well on paper, but they did because they made this internal conviction. I'm not going to say that everyone can get well from things, but I'm not going to say that I can't either, right? It's really you have to understand that power is within you. And it's not to say that everything is your fault. It's not because we're not educated, all these things, but ultimately our life is 100% our responsibility, meaning that we have full agency over mind, body, and spirit. We get to decide what happens next. Okay, this thing happened. Okay, I had Lyme disease. Now what am I going to do about it? No, it's not. It's not ideal, but ultimately this is going to forge my character to live the life I'm meant to lead, right? So I'm start to embrace these challenges, man, and you start to make it step by step. I'm still making progress every day. I'm still learning. I'm still growing in the field of health and wellness. And that's what it's all about. It's about having fun in the process, enjoying the moment. All you have is right now. The future, it doesn't exist. The past doesn't. And when they do, then it happen right now. So you have to own this moment and make decisions from there, man. And you start to kind of cultivate this forward momentum in your life and start to have this, spirit of joy, spirit of freedom, and just kind of move forward and kind of enjoy that process and make progress every single day. And that's what it's all about. And then when you start to feel better, you're going to kind of understand that, hey, that life that I once lived, it's no longer there. It's like transform it. And you get inspired by possibility. You get to create your life in a sense. And you just keep moving forward and just get better. That's what I know.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anthony, there is much to learn about all this from you, Anthony, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to understand more about you, more from you, and also perhaps want you to be their health coach. What is the best way for them to do so?
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you having me. It's been an honor. So my website is anthonygastella.com. This is where I write articles, I coach, a few other free information on there. I also have a podcast myself, Anthony Guastella Wellness, where we bring all tools of wellness, personal development, mindset to people to become the greatest versions of themselves. We interview great guests. We have solo-sodes, everything like that, man. And that's what the mission is, just inspire people to become the greatest versions of them and live a life of their dreams. And that's what it's all about.
Wonderful. Wonderful, Anthony. Nice talking to you. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.